This video is covering the things I don't like about recruitment that affect candidates. I'm an interview coach and a recruitment specialist, so I know the industry well. So I know that some of the things that people hate about recruiters is sometimes not their fault, and sometimes it is. So hiring managers will be covered here as well. So the first thing is ghosting. A few weeks ago, I did a poll asking you what is the most frustrating part of job hunting, and 18% of you said that you didn't like it when recruiters didn't call back. A couple of you even left comments to that effect. And this is ghosting, at least in the context of job searching. I see this everywhere. I get feedback in emails from you guys and comments. And on LinkedIn, I see people sharing their stories of going through rounds and rounds of interviews and not even hearing back from the recruiter or having to chase to get feedback, which I don't recommend, by the way. I explain why in this video. So please do watch it if you believe in following up after interviews. You should not have to do this. And I understand why recruiters might not follow up. Some recruiters operate at volume, so you'll have thousands of people at any one time moving through a process at one step or another, and you can't give individual feedback among other reasons. However, there are always supposed to be steps in place where someone at least gets an email. So when I join a company, if the recruitment team I'm managing are not already trained, I train them the same way. If a candidate has got to application stage, then they at least get an email rejection if they are interviewing either virtual or, well, especially face-to-face. They should at least get a phone call, not just a rejection, but feedback on why they are not successful. It's not a perfect solution. It's flawed. Some candidates don't want feedback, but at least everyone's getting something and the process is closed off. Ghosting is not acceptable. It happens, but it shouldn't, and it can have such a damaging effect on the way that a candidate can manage with this majorly stressful experience, particularly if you urgently need work. So 2 is not challenging the manager. The recruiter's role is essentially one of being a specialist advisor in what they do. If a hiring manager or a company can recruit themselves and understand recruitment strategy and all the things, they don't really need a recruiter. So sometimes the recruiter needs to challenge the manager or coach them on why some actions create a better experience for the candidate and ultimately for them as well. So when a recruiter doesn't do this, it causes so much disruption and unnecessary work, but it also causes a terrible experience for the candidate. And some of the things that managers do are things like cancelling an interview on the day or the day before the interview when a candidate's already booked time off work, or they've got a babysitter already, insisting on not giving feedback to any candidates, no matter how far they've got in the process, wanting to rescind offers to candidates, so making a job offer and then changing their mind. A candidate might have already resigned from their previous role by then once they got the offer, or promising candidates things that are not in the job. Wanting to offer a much lower salary than what was promised, insultingly low. Pushing the recruiter or the interview panel to ask very personal or inappropriate interview questions, bordering on illegal. I've personally experienced all of these, and I have so many more examples. But yet, I see environments where these activities are sometimes considered the norm. So I don't like it when recruiters don't act as specialists and then managers develop bad habits which they hold onto for years to come. But also, candidates can just go online today and post a video just like this one, or they can go on Indeed or Glassdoor or anywhere on social media and post about their experience. So by mistreating a candidate, it can also affect the company brand. So 2 is not challenging the manager. 3 is putting candidates through their paces in an interview pointlessly. So I've conducted a ton of interviews, and in my experience as a coach and as a recruitment specialist, candidates always perform better in interviews when they feel more at ease, when they feel relaxed, comfortable, and not like they are interrogated. So this is more of a manager, HR, or interviewer issue as opposed to a recruiter. It can sometimes be a recruiter issue if the recruiter is involved in the interview process, but normally I find it more with managers or some HR reps if they're inexperienced interviewers. I never really understand why somebody would enjoy seeing a candidate perform at their worst when they're looking for someone to do the role. I totally respect that some roles need a more complex interviewing style and more in-depth questions, but grilling candidates generally yields bad results. But I've heard more than a few times either a manager or an HR specialist say something to the effect of, I really just enjoy grilling candidates, putting them through their paces. Why? Why? What purpose does it serve? If I see interview questions in a framework and I ask a manager, why is that question in there? Like, what are we assessing? I've had some of the most bizarre responses from, I don't know, it's just been there for years, to I just kind of like to see if they struggle with that question when the question has no relevance to the role or how the candidate will perform in the role. And as for I don't know, I don't even know what to say. Why would somebody continue to ask questions to a candidate when they don't know why they're asking the questions? So 4 is not allowing salary negotiations. This is a big one for me because how much you earn has a direct impact on your quality of life. And you know what? Millions of people work for the money. We want to find something that we love, but unless you're wealthy, money is a driving factor. So pretending it's not and expecting candidates to never ask about salary or negotiate is an unhealthy way for any HR representative to hire and to grow their team. It's really normal for candidates to negotiate their salary, even if a manager has a tight budget for a role and a candidate can't negotiate. It's completely normal for a candidate to ask the question. I don't like when managers or recruiters have a disproportionate reaction to what is a really normal question in a hiring process from a candidate. Now, there are some exceptions. Sometimes a budget is so tight that a recruiter might be really clear with someone at the beginning of the process that the salary is non-negotiable. The candidate knows that, they're reminded all the way through, and then they ask for 10, 15K more at offer stage. So sometimes a manager would be frustrated by that, but usually it's a really common question, and some managers take it very personal. They get personally offended by it. So I saw a story in my LinkedIn network that went viral. You may have seen it too. A lady went for a job interview and asked to negotiate her salary after an offer came through. And this was a small salary negotiation, less than 5K, not much. And the recruiter immediately rescinded the offer, ignored her calls. I think she might have blocked her on LinkedIn. I can't remember. I think she might have. But you could tell that this lady was upset in her post. If this has ever happened to you, take my word for it that this is a signal and a blessing. This situation shows a severe lack of empathy. I really hope it didn't put that lady off of negotiating in future, because you should always have the right to ask, and the employer has the right to say no, but you should be able to ask the question. I personally don't always negotiate salary. I talk about my recommendations on answering what are your salary expectations in this video. But essentially, I'm very clear about what I want from the beginning, so that by the time you're at offer stage, the employer knows that you have a minimum that you will accept. And that's before the process has even started, because otherwise it's kind of a waste of everybody's time. So I don't always, but I do sometimes. It just depends. I did have a similar experience a long time ago where the offer wasn't rescinded, but a manager just got really angry that I had attempted to negotiate after they offered me a lower salary than what was advertised, I might add. But to be honest, I wish they had turned me down, because it didn't turn out to be a healthy working environment. So I almost wish that they had saved me the time. And it's the same for clients I've had as well. They get in somewhere that had a terrible hiring or negotiation process, and they end up hating the job or the manager. So not allowing salary discussion at all or revoking your offer is another thing that I don't like. 5 is misrepresenting a role. A recruiter significantly misrepresenting a role can lead you into a career where you are miserable. So lying about aspects of a role or misrepresenting it, or misrepresenting parts that are important to the candidate, that lacks moral compass. And it's not all recruiters. I know some amazing recruiters, but it has happened to me before, and it does happen. I went to an interview at a large, well-known beverage services company. I can't say which, but they are one of the biggest, and the recruiter told me 3 lies. I'll confidently say they misrepresented the role. I'll never forget this. The first was they told me that I get a company car and I get to pick the color, which I thought was weird and unnecessary, because there was supposed to be no travel in the role, which was the second misrepresentation, because no company would pay for a company car unless they get some kind of return on their investment, or it's a very senior role. So there would be travel in the role. and the person also misrepresented the salary. So by the time the interview was over, I was just irritated because it completely wasted my time and I chose to go to another company instead. But I caught these issues because I know what to look out for and a lot of candidates don't. So it's another thing that I really don't like. Let me know if you've ever had this where you've been promised a bunch of stuff in a role and it was just completely not true. Thank you for watching to the end and thank you for listening to my rant. I do try to improve some of these situations in what I do, but I found it to be very impactful when I train candidates for these scenarios so that you guys can overcome these obstacles. And that's why I am an interview coach as well as actually working in HR as a recruitment specialist. If you like this, like, subscribe and comment, and I will see you in the next video.